Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Neil here again with BIKEPACKING.com. And in this video, we chat with Katie and Andrew Strempke, who recently just yo-yoed the Colorado Trail. You're probably wondering, what is yo-yo? Well, yo-yo is essentially doing an out and back on a very large route, such as the Colorado Trail. I think we coined the term in the ultra scene when Billy Rice yo-yoed the Great Divide mountain bike route during the Tour Divide one year. So it's a big deal, and it's twice the amount of distance that the Colorado Trail normally is, which is pretty incredible. So in this interview, we chat about the Colorado Trail, their experience on the trail, and just life in general. Katie and Andrew are two incredible human beings, and it was a pleasure chatting with them. If you haven't done so already and like what you see here, please hit that subscribe button. That will ensure each one of our videos pops up in your feed, and enjoy the video. I just want to introduce Katie and Andrew Strempke, who just recently yo-yoed the Colorado Trail, which is something that I can't even imagine. So thank you two for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess the main question, why yo-yo the Colorado Trail? Have both of you done the Colorado Trail previously?
So Andrew has successfully completed the Colorado Trail. We both started it last year. Andrew finished in less than 6 days, which was like a huge deal for your first time on the Colorado Trail. You did a great job. I was out there with blisters, and so I quit like in Breckenridge with those blisters, which was a super bummer, but yeah, that happens. Everything has to go just right to be able to finish the Colorado Trail.
And so you quit in Breckenridge, and then what was the official time that you had, Andrew?
I think I finished like 2 a.m., so the 5:22 something. It was an eye-opening experience, but it was awesome. I was ready to go back and do more this summer. And then with no grand depart, we kind of looked at, ITT, and then we're like, oh, we can just tour it together, just go be out there. And then met up with some friends before the race, and before we were going to tour it, and they were talking about yo-yo, and we learned that nobody had done a yo-yo, at least as far as we knew. And so we were like, okay, well, we don't have anything going on this summer.
Everything else is canceled.
Yeah, might as well go for that. So we basically got talked into it, or talked ourselves into it. But about a week before, so we made a few last minute purchases to ride at night and stuff like that. But it was not a long drawn out plan. It was kind of a last minute decision to try and yo-yo.
Well, that's incredible, and we'll get into that in a second. I want to kind of rewind just a touch here. So when did you guys start bike packing? What was that first aha moment where, oh, this is pretty awesome?
We did our first long tour in 2012. We did their ACA routes, the Western Express from San Francisco to Pueblo, Colorado, and then from there hooked up with a Trans Am and took that across to Yorktown, Virginia. So we were just like new cyclists, and we were like, people ride across the country. That seems like a good idea. We were super young.
Full on road tour. Back in the years, I had a Bob trailer.
Classic.
Yeah.
Total. Yeah.
It's a great gateway.
Yeah. It's scary how little we knew.
Yeah. So that was our very first tour in 2012. And then we had a big gap where we didn't really do any touring or bike packing or anything. Just like racing, cyclocross and road and stuff. And then in 2018, we toured the Great Divide route together. And after that, we started doing a lot more overnight stuff and got more into bike packing and started getting more interested in the bike pack racing side of things.
Yeah, the Divide changed us for sure. It was like spending a month out there. It was like, okay, we got to go back to the mountains. It was like every opportunity we got. We live in Kansas City, so it was like every weekend of vacation, it was like, all right, out to the mountains and do something. And so that was kind of instigator. I know we did some overnighters around Kansas City, and it was like the first couple, we just had a backpack, And then you get back from that, you're like, all right, I need to buy these bags. Like, bags are real. So, buy some cheap bags and figure that out. And then started making some bags. Like, it's like, oh, these bags are expensive. I'm going to try and make some. And yeah, then the divide. And from there, it was like just totally focused on bike packing and bike pack racing.
And I think the divide, I mean, it's transformed quite a few people, including myself and you two. So like living in Kansas City, that drive is far, but not terribly difficult to like Colorado, right? What is it, like 12 hours or 10 hours or something?
8 to Denver, yeah.
I guess when did you decide you wanted to do the Colorado Trail?
I think, you start meeting more people who've done more bikepacking stuff, and that's always on everybody's list. Like, you have to go do the Colorado Trail. It's amazing and it's so hard. And so just talking to some other people and reading online.
You do the divide and you're like, okay, I can do bikepacking stuff. And then you're like, oh, Colorado Trail looks cool. And it's like, they kind of seem like they're, the next progression, but it's like totally different. It's just, and so it was eye opening being out there, like full on mountain biking, hike a bike, just, yeah. But as soon as we experienced it, it's like, I love it. It's,
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard and it's so rewarding. It's just, yeah, it keeps drawing you back.
Katie, so you bailed last year. What did you train for or do differently over the course of the year to help you get through this endeavor?
Yeah, so I switched to riding with flat pedals and hiking shoes, which a lot of people do the Colorado Trail in bike shoes and they're fine. That just didn't work out for me, so I wanted to go to the other extreme. And so that ended up working out really well for me. And then I felt like I really struggled hiking and pushing my bike. So I did some more strength training and some injury prevention stuff, like a lot of core, glutes, and upper body stuff, just to make sure that my body was strong enough to be able, like, sometimes you're lifting your bike like over, over these huge rocks and stuff, and you have to have a strong body to be able to do that. And I could pedal all day long, but that's just a different skill set that I didn't really have. And so that strength training really helped me.
Yeah. Katie's been doing 100 push-ups a day for a year.
Dang. All at once?
She's got some guns.
So was there a specific plan, or were you just kind of like making your own plan?
I was making my own plan. Like, I kind of knew that, like, knees had been kind of an issue before. I wanted to make sure that my Achilles tendons were strong, because that's an issue that a lot of people have. And yeah, just based on my own weaknesses, kind of created a strength training plan from that.
And what flat pedals and shoes combo did you run with?
So I used 1-Up pedals. I'm not sure the specific model.
They're the plastic ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the hiking shoes that I used are called Limbs shoes. They have like a trail shoe that's a little more rigid. They're on sale on their website right now for like $45. So yeah, they have a wider toe box because I have pretty wide feet. My feet are like squares. Like, they're really small, but they're really wide. So those are a brand that I found works for my wide feet.
Going back to the decision, so who are your friends that you chatted with, and why were they deciding to yo-yo? Who are these crazy people?
So Alexandra Houchin and Justin Dubois. We met up with them before their yo-yo attempt. We were actually driving to Colorado and like called up Alexandra and realized she was like half an hour ahead of us on I-80. And so stopped in the middle of Nebraska and camped out together. And she kind of like told us her whole plan. And we were just like, oh man, yo-yo sounds way more epic than going on a tour.
Yeah. The whole time we were planning this tour, I was like, Andrew's going to want to do something different. Like, we're not going to end up touring. Like, there's going to be something else.
Yeah. So they, Alexandra definitely had this I guess, idea in mind that the yo-yo needed to be done. And she had a good plan. Like, they definitely helped us, figure out how they were going to do it. It's like, okay, you get to Durango and you basically just plan to turn around at the trailhead. Like, if you can, don't go into Durango. Don't tempt yourself. Just, yeah, because it's dangerous. And so we definitely had that mentality of like, okay, that's how you have to do it. If you're going to do it, you have to know you're doing the yo-yo. You have to have the whole thing in mind, right? You can't just be like, I'm going to do Colorado Trail and then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do it again. It's like, no. Getting to Durango is halfway. I tell people, all the time with like doing a 200-mile gravel race. It's like, it's not like doing 2 100-mile gravel races, right? When you start mentally, you're like, I'm doing 200 miles. When you get to 100, you're halfway. Because finishing a 100-mile gravel race and then being like, oh, I can't imagine doing that again. It's like, yeah, it's way harder if you got the whole thing in mind. So mentally, you just had to be, had to prepare like that.
So you're mentally thinking, all right, I'm going to do 1,000 miles and I'm going to do 150,000 feet of climbing.
Right.
That's silly.
Yeah.
It is a little bit silly.
And awesome.
That was where, Katie had a good plan of like, okay, it's going to be, 2 weeks-ish. So we're going to sleep for 6 hours a night. Like, it's different than the regular Colorado Trail kind of blitz. Like, you're going to race and you can get away with just a few hours or less. I mean, kind of in awe of your times, like just
couldn't sustain that like another hour. So yes,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but that's what it takes to do, set the record. So it's like, but yeah, it's stepping back and being like, okay, we're going to be out here for realistically somewhere around 2 weeks. So have to be a little sustainable, and neither of us are very like sleep deprivation apt, I would say. So, I mean, kind of rookies at that. So like, we were going to do a little more conservative approach. It's like, it takes us 20 days, whatever, but wanted to finish. That was the first priority.
Mm-hmm.
So walk us through the beginning a little bit. So you guys weren't riding together. Was that the plan? So you guys wanted to kind of do this as a race, like an ITT. So like you guys would actually have official times. But yeah, walk us through the beginning a little bit there, at least the first few days.
Yeah, so we were riding separately, ITT. I mean, we had all our own stuff. So the night before we started, we rode up Waterton and camped like at the start of the single track where basically you're allowed to camp. And then at 3:30 rolled down to the trailhead, turned around and start. And then, yeah, rolled up the canyon a little bit together, but from there we were gone, separate, and went several days separately. And I think both of us were like checking the tracker probably more than we should, just because it's like when your partner's out there, you're worried about yourself and them. Or like I would go through a section and be like, oh man, I wish I could like, be here to tell Katie like, oh, take that left line, it's like super sketchy on the right, like, but you just have to go. But definitely watching the tracker a lot. And then Katie got to BV and her phone was broken.
Yeah, my phone just like wouldn't charge and it wouldn't turn on. So yeah, I was just like sitting at the gas station, like it was like 9:30 at night, and I was like, what do I do? Can I keep going without a phone? Like I don't know. You always have your phone with you, like. So then I took a step back and I was like, okay, like what am I actually using my phone for, and do I actually need a phone? And what you need your phone for is if there's an emergency, right? And that's what the InReach was for. So I had an InReach Mini, which is really slick if it connects with your phone. Like you can send satellite text messages using your phone. But if you don't have your phone, then you get to like scroll through the alphabet and select one letter at a time. So I selected one letter at a time and said, phone's broken, gonna keep going, and sent it to Andrew and my parents. And yeah, so left BV that night, and it was raining, camped at the trailhead, where the single track starts back up again.
When was the moment then when you guys ran into each other on trail, and how was that experience? I bet that was pretty fun.
Yeah. So I was riding on that La Garita Wilderness Detour and like doing the math, like, okay, how many more miles do I have to Silverton, and am I going to get there during gas station hours? And if I had stopped, I was kind of on a schedule where I like stopped at 11 p.m. and started again at 5:30. And so if I stopped at 11 p.m., like there was no way I was going to make it to Silverton in time. I was like, okay, well, if I knock out the rest of the detour tonight, then is it possible that I might make it to Silverton before the gas station closes? And I determined that if that next day I rode 3 miles an hour and rode for like 16 hours, that I could make it to Silverton before the gas station closed. Assuming that I wasn't too tired and like trash from doing that big day the day before. So I decided to keep going and finish the detour at 1:30. So not like a super crazy night, but later than I was planning on going on a regular day, and got to the Spring Creek trailhead where I knew there was a vault toilet because it had been raining like the day before. So my stuff was still kind of wet and all that day. And that night it was just like dumping rain the whole time that I was on the detour. So Andrew had also experienced that rain and stopped at the Spring Creek trailhead because he knew there was a vault toilet at 9:30 at night. And yeah, do you want to tell that story a little bit?
Yeah, I just pulled into that trailhead, and like as I pulled in, it was dumping rain, and so I was like beeline to the toilet, and I was sitting outside for a while, just under the cover, and then the wind shifted, and I started getting rained on, and I was like, okay, it's 9:45 at night. There's a few cars, but I don't think there's anyone here. Like it was just hikers that had parked there. I was like, all right, I'm gonna hop inside here and sit out of the rain for a while. And I didn't know how long I'd have to wait it out or if I would sleep there. But then like 10 minutes after I'm sitting inside there, I hear a bike roll up and there's a knock on the door. And this other bike packer that was touring was like, hey man, is there more room inside? Like he had just got separated from his friends, and they had the tarp.
Oh,
and
shoot.
He was there at night at, I don't know how high that pass is, 11,000 feet something, and just pouring rain, no tarp. And I was like, yeah, dude, like there's plenty of room. Let's sit in here. And so we got to know each other a bit, and then eventually it just kept raining, set up our bivvies. And then I hear this knock on the door at 1:30, and I'm just like, oh no, like
Another.
but I don't want to happen. Like this is, I feel so rude. And then I heard like, Andrew, it's me. And I was like, what? Like, no way. Cause I hadn't had service for over a day. Like that's a super remote area. So, yeah, I was pretty surprised. I opened the door and set up Katie's bivvy inside. So 3 of us in the vault toilet, which is pretty
tight.
I don't know if you ever tried that, but yeah.
I have to mention, I've actually slept in that exact same vault toilet before.
Oh, yeah.
So I know I'm very acquainted with it.
Yeah, it was a good condition, no complaints.
Yeah, it is clean for sure. At least when I went.
Yeah, clean. Yeah.
So what was the decision after that? Were you guys like, all right, we're going to stick together, or what?
So that next morning, it was still raining, and we all 3 of us rolled out together. It was just like walking up muddy road towards DeRosa Mesa, like should just be flying through there. And so that next whole day, us 2 and Lenny, the other guy in the toilet, we pretty much stuck together all the way to Stony Pass and down to Silverton. And it rained on us the whole day, and so we got to Silverton. And we were wet and cold and tired, and so got a hotel room or a cabin with Lenny again. Like we're new best friends, and yeah. So at that point, our wheels are spinning. Like, okay, are we riding together? And we're almost to Durango, and I'd been thinking through this exchange, right? Like if we continued to be separate, and I made it to Durango and turned around, and then we meet somewhere. It's like reuniting again and then having to say goodbye. Like I knew it was going to be really hard. But at that point it was like, okay, we're riding through this like terrible weather. Like I'd seen people talking on the Facebook group, like the forecast for that whole 4 or 5 day stretch was just like so much rain. And I was like, all right, this is like, I was demoralized just riding through all of that weather. And so we were together. Katie had caught me, so our paces were obviously not that different. And Katie didn't have a phone, and it was like, okay, like let's finish this thing off together. Like, I don't know. I was ready for a buddy at that point. Like, I'd just been out there alone for 5 days. Every pass going up, and it's like super dark skies, and you're just like, what am I doing? So yeah, we were definitely ready for some company out there, and decided to stick together for the rest of the way.
I think that might be like a difficulty with doing an individual time trial in general. It's like you're not riding with the group, like you're riding on your own. And sure, there was some other people out there, but yeah, that's a real challenge for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we were interacting. There were quite a few hikers out there this year, but nobody you're going the same pace at. So pretty much solo. So it's, yeah, definitely nice to have a partner out there, especially through the weather. Fortunately, once we got to Durango, the whole way back was beautiful. It was like how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. So what time did you get into Durango, and when did you, or I guess Junction Creek, and then when did you get back to Junction Creek? What was your turnaround in Durango?
So we bought like 3 days of food in Silverton, hoping that we could make it a day and a half to Junction Creek, turn around, and a day and a half back to Silverton. It's like 80 miles, something like that. But we ended up running into some weather and having to bivvy up on Indian Trail Ridge one night. Just like ran into a thunderstorm up there and had to scramble down the hill, and ended up spending the whole night there in a thunderstorm. So it took us an extra day to get to Junction Creek. So by the time we got there, we were like, okay, we need more food to get to Silverton. So we got to Junction Creek Trailhead, I think around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and knew we needed to resupply. So we rolled down and got a meal, went to the grocery store, and went to the bike shop. I needed a shock pump because my fork was leaking air. And so I was able to limp that back, but needed to buy a shock pump it up every couple days. But so I think we were back at the trailhead like 3 or 3.5 hours later.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. Wow.
Yeah, it was a few miles down the road, and yeah, grocery store stop. That was not bad.
We try to be intentional, like making it quick, not getting too comfortable in town, because that's where it's really easy to quit in a hotel room.
That wasn't as hard as I thought, because I think as we were descending down Durango, we just had that night on Indian Trail Ridge, and so I was like, neither of us slept very much, and I was definitely like, oh man, are we really doing this? Like, are we really turning around? But that day into Durango, like sun was shining, blue skies, and we got into Durango, and it was kind of like, I mean, we didn't go into like downtown, like we didn't go to the cool part of Durango. We were just like on the highway, and so it was like busy traffic. It was hot. We were like, let's get back on the trail. We weren't ready to be in an urban environment yet. So I wouldn't say that the actual turnaround was that hard. We were pretty mentally prepared on our descent down, ready to be back on the trail.
Andrew, I guess when you did the trail last year, you went from Durango to Denver. So did you maybe underestimate the trail with fatigued legs that second half, or was it just because you had to deal with the sleeping out at Indian Trail Ridge and dealing with the weather?
So I knew this was my first time going Denver to Durango on that first half, and so I knew what was coming, like Cataract Ridge area and Sergeant's Mesa, and that was kind of like in the back of my mind the whole way out. It was like, oh man, I got Sergeant's Mesa coming up. I got Sergeant's Mesa. It's going to be so bad. It's going to be so much hike-a-bike. And I think that must have just been a really low point for me last year, because I got there and I was like, okay, I'm really going to fuel up. I'm really going to get through this. And I was like, done. I was like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I built it up. Knowing what was ahead was kind of tough. But Katie and I were both talking. We both prefer the Durango to Denver direction, like get the San Juans out of the way and then it tapers. So we knew we had a few hard days, and then it was like once we got to Highway 50, we knew it was like, all right, we can finish it from here. So I think that helped doing it last year and being a little familiar with how the trail rolls. But I think by the time we got to Durango, like we were acclimated, legs were used to hiking. Fortunately, our contact points and feet were in good shape, so it was like we were kind of just like in the zone, just keep going. You kind of get in that state where you're just like you can keep moving all day.
So you both were on hardtails, which they both were equipped with no gears, one gear, which is pretty impressive. So have you guys always been single speeders, or what was the decision behind going single on the Colorado Trail?
Andrew's been riding single speed for a long time. I don't know, after we got back from the Divide on in 2018, I was like ready to try something a little bit different, and just like trained on single speed during the winter. I don't know, it's super fun and like meditative to ride single speed. So as far as deciding to do the Colorado Trail single speed, I'm not really sure why. And
well, you did it last year on a full suspension trail bike.
Yeah.
That climbs okay, but it's a big bike. So
yeah.
you would experience that last year with like pretty heavy bike, not super efficient, and so having this hardtail with single speed, and it's like just lighter as far as picking it up and pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Just, which sounds silly, but it's like that's a pretty major part of the experience. So so I'm a big fan of single speed. Just it suits my riding, but especially on the Colorado Trail, it's like there's so much steep stuff that you're not going to ride anyway. So you have less weight. You don't have to worry about a derailleur getting snagged on rocks and stuff, and just lower maintenance. So in my mind, it makes perfect sense, but I know we're the weirdos. So I guess it's not as much like gnarly mashing pedals uphill as it sounds. Like there's a lot of hike a bike. So
you're like, all right, I know I'm gonna get off now. This is silly.
Right. Yeah. And after the first day, you're like, when you see an incline, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to try and pedal up that. I could do it. If it was a day ride, I could turn myself inside out and I could get up it. But now I'll just walk.
What was your gearing, both of you?
I ran 32.22.
I was 34.22. Last year I was 32.22, and this year I kind of last minute was like, oh yeah, I realized I had this harder gear on my bike.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try and find a 23 tooth. And I looked around for a few days and couldn't find one and ran out of time. So I was like, guess I'm running 34.22. I'm going to be walking anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Did you regret that in any way?
No, you kind of ride what you got.
Yeah.
So I mean,
like that attitude. Oh yeah.
That's the way it works. So I was able to spin a little faster on detours, but there's probably some stuff that I would have been able to ride that I opted to walk. So I'd probably run 32.22 next time. But yeah, you get through it either way.
I spoke to Hefe earlier this year. I think it was in April, and he was mentioning, obviously, they canceled the race. But he also was talking to the Colorado Trail Association, saying there wasn't that many trail days because people didn't want to be out there with COVID. But he mentioned there could be a bunch of trees down. Did you guys notice any of that, or have to deal with going over Any deadfall?
Not really. The trail was actually in really good condition. I think maybe trail crews had been out there since we
For sure.
yeah, since we started. But
Yeah, there were some down trees, but not anything significant. Yeah, so that was good. And then last year was our first experience on the trail, and we had a ton of snowpack. We were hiking like in San Juans, just across these big snowfields, and so this year it was a lot faster in that respect. So yeah, no complaints about trail condition. It was good shape.
Just a few more questions here. 16 days on the bike. What hurt the most when you were finished?
I think my ankles, like every morning when I got up, like standing up again, my ankles were pretty sore.
Probably my hands, just hands were pretty fatigued. I think with single speed, people spend a lot of time hiking. We spend even more time hiking. So it's like you get a lot of breaks of your butt's off the saddle, your feet are moving, your legs are moving differently. So that's another pro for single speed.
I might have to try this here.
Yeah, you really should.
I hate getting saddle sores.
Yeah, so definitely not. Saddle sores are definitely not an issue because you're just on and off so much. Yeah, neither of us are super aggressive mountain bikers, so there's a lot of stuff where it's like if it was a questionable feature or whatever, we were probably walking anyway. So yeah, plenty of walking.
Katie, so you had I read somewhere that you did, or your mantra was growth over comfort. Explain maybe a few instances of this that you found on the trail.
I guess the biggest one that I can think of was that day getting into Silverton where it was just like foggy and raining and cold all day. Like just keeping that in mind that like there's something more important than my comfort right now. And like I'll get through this day and come out the other side like stronger and have this experience in my back pocket to pull from when it gets hard later in bikepacking or life or whatever. That was definitely the biggest one. And just if there were any time that like a doubt came into my mind about the yo-yo, like is there something real here that's a real reason to quit, or is it something in my head where I'd rather be comfortable right now? Yeah, so that's kind of how I use that on the trail.
For sure. I think that's wise advice for anybody, even just going out on a bike packing trip, because there is a lot of times where you're just not very comfortable out there, but you're growing and you're learning. So that's awesome. What are you guys doing next? What's the plan? Where are you guys at now?
Right now, we're back in Kansas City at my parents' house, back for a week or so. But so we actually just sold our house beginning of the summer, and we're traveling in our van for next year or so. So Colorado Trail was kind of like first stop. So we spent like 2 weeks in the van and then 2 weeks in the Colorado Trail. So we still are like super fresh in the van, or still figuring that out. But yeah, thinking might head up north for the rest of the summer. Idaho Hot Springs Loop is looking pretty tempting. We had talked about Arizona Trail Race, but looks like there's a lot of question marks around that right now. Fires, and so keep our eyes on that. But really like to do that one at some point. Never ridden in Arizona, so
It's
that
very
one's
good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that route in general is almost as well. It's way more diverse than Colorado, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's just as challenging. And the new route, the 800 version, is I haven't done that new version, but it is much more difficult just on paper. So yeah, that's definitely a great option. I hopefully it happens because it's on my radar too, but I don't know if it will.
That'd be awesome to see there. Yeah, we ran into somebody on the trail that was doing an ITT, and he was just about to get into Sergeant's Mesa, and he stopped us, and he was like, "This trail is horrible. Like, I thought this was a bike race." And I was like, "Dude, these next 6 hours, like,
Good. Saddle up.
like I've done AZT, it's so good, but this trail is just, I keep having to walk my bike." And I was like, "Oh man, that's, speaks highly of AZT. Like, I guess it's rideable, but I've always heard they're kind of comparable in terms of technicality, rideability."
I wonder
But
if he only did the 300-mile version or what. But
yeah, I don't.
even still, the 300-mile version is a good indication of what you can expect for the whole race.
Yeah, maybe he's just having a bad day. But
Probably. We all have those out there, right?
yeah,
Cool. All right, you two. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us today, and good luck on the van. What van do you guys have?
we have a Ram ProMaster.
Awesome. I have one of those
You?
too, and it's amazing. Do you have a shorty or a long one?
It's the longer wheelbase.
Okay,
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah. It's been a lot of fun so far. After you get back from bikepacking trip,
Oh,
we were
it's
just,
so nice.
oh, I can't wait to get back to the van. It's
Yeah.
gonna be luxurious.
It's even bikepacking's simple, but like van life is super simple too, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
comparable in a way, and it's super
Yeah.
refreshing for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All right, you two. Well, thank you so much. And if you guys have any comments or questions for Andrew and Katie, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm sure they will be happy to get back to those questions. And until next time, pedal further. Thanks for watching.